Once upon a time, a king ruled over a prosperous kingdom. He was very kind and beloved by his people. Among his advisors, his favorite was the minister, who was wise and helped him in all state affairs. The king valued his counsel deeply. He relied on his wisdom to maintain peace and harmony throughout the land. The minister had lots of relatives who were landlords. He visited them sometimes. One evening, the minister sat with his wife, sipping tea as the sun began to set. The table was set with biscuits and small tea cakes that she had made. Just then, the postman arrived and handed him a letter.
"It's for my uncle,"
he said, smiling. The minister opened it and began to read aloud.
"My dear son, I want to meet you. It's been so long since I have seen you, and my heart yearns for your company. You are my brother's son, and I have much to share with you. Please come and stay with us."
He looked at his wife.
"Tomorrow, I will ask the king for permission to go. If granted, I will leave in the morning."
The next day, the minister went to the king's court and respectfully asked for leave to visit his uncle. The king listened and nodded.
"Please, try to return soon,"
he said.
"There are many state matters to handle, and I rely on your counsel."
The minister bowed.
"I will, Your Majesty."
The next morning, after breakfast, the minister got ready to go. His wife packed sandwiches in a tiffin box and filled a thermos with hot tea. She handed them to him with a warm smile. The minister kneeled down and hugged their children, Emma and Mickey, who clung to him for a moment.
"Take care, Papa,"
Emma said. Then he waved goodbye and went out. After a long journey, the minister arrived at his uncle's village just before noon. His uncle came out to greet him with a big smile, and his young grandson, John, handed him a glass of water.
"Welcome, my boy,"
his uncle said, his voice filled with emotion. Tears came in his eyes. He added,
"My son, your cousin has gone to another village for some work."
Meanwhile, his daughter-in-law, Laura, moved to the kitchen, quickly preparing a warm meal. First, she boiled 2 liters of milk in a pot on the stove, added 2 cups of water and half a cup of rice. She turned the burner to low heat and left it to cook slowly, stirring occasionally. Then Laura made the chicken meatballs, adding salt, chili powder, cumin powder. She added poppy seed powder, black pepper powder, and ground black chickpea powder to the mixture. Then fried them until browned. She heated oil in a large pan over medium heat and added chopped onions, sautéing them until they turned golden brown. Then, she added minced garlic and cooked it for a minute. After that, she added fresh tomatoes and cooked them until softened, allowing the oil to separate. She mixed in ground spices like turmeric, coriander, powdered 3 cloves and some black pepper, half a tablespoon of red chili powder, and salt, letting them cook for a few minutes. Then she added water and let it simmer. Carefully, she added the meatballs into the gravy. After simmering for 10 to 15 minutes, the meatballs were fully cooked and the gravy thickened. Finally, she added the boiled egg halves. Laura checked the rice porridge. By now, the rice had become soft and creamy. She added half a cup of sugar and mixed it well. Laura set the lunch in the main room with the help of the children. They all sat down to eat together. When they finished, the uncle smiled and said,
You should rest now. We will talk more later.
The minister, feeling thankful, went to the room prepared for him and quickly fell asleep. In the evening, the minister woke up and joined his uncle. His uncle smiled and said,
I remember when your father and I were young. We used to cause so much trouble. Once, we scared the cows by hiding in the hayloft.
The minister laughed.
I can imagine. What happened next?
His uncle laughed.
Oh, it was chaos. But we had so much fun.
They both laughed. That evening, after dinner, the uncle's friends came to visit.
This is my brother's son, the king's favorite minister.
The uncle said proudly. One friend, George, asked,
Could you tell the king we are having trouble with water for our crops?
Mr. Nick added,
And good seeds are hard to find here.
The minister nodded.
Write letters and give them to my uncle. I will make sure the king gets them.
In the kitchen, Laura made tea and sliced boiled eggs with salt and pepper. She served everyone with a smile. The next morning, after breakfast, the minister went with his uncle to the fields. The cotton plants stood tall, their white flowers swaying gently in the breeze. The minister smiled, impressed.
Look at these.
His uncle said proudly.
They are beautiful.
The minister replied, taking in the view.
You have done a great job.
Around noon, they returned home, where Laura had prepared chicken vegetable rice and made a tomato sauce. She took the rice out in a dish, placed the sauce in a bowl, and set a bowl of yogurt, along with the rice and sauce, on the floor in the room. They all gathered to enjoy lunch together. The minister stayed with his uncle for 2 days, sharing stories and memories, then was ready to go. On the last morning, the minister got up early and got ready to leave. His uncle gave him the letters for the king, asking for help with local problems. He also handed the minister a pouch with 1,000 gold coins. The minister hesitated, but his uncle insisted.
These are for my grandchildren. Please take them.
With teary eyes, the minister hugged his uncle, kissed the children, and said goodbye before leaving, promising to return soon. On the way, a man saw him walking along and, seeing his pouch, he guessed that he was carrying a lot of money.
This is a likely victim,
thought the thief. So he disguised himself as a saint and met up with the minister as he walked along. They greeted each other. The minister was a friendly person. Thinking the stranger was really a saint, he chatted happily with him. The minister said,
I'm on my way to the capital.
And the man replied,
I too am going to the capital to meet my relatives.
They decided to walk along together. Soon night fell. They found an inn where they could rest for the night. The man and the minister talked for some time, till finally the minister fell asleep, rolled up in his blanket. The thief was waiting for his chance. Then, quietly and stealthily, he began looking through all his belongings for the money. He was sure the minister had a large amount of gold. He hunted through the minister's bundle. There was no sign of the money. Then he crept closer to the minister's bed and began searching. It did not seem to be anywhere under his blanket. Then he slowly slipped his hand under the pillow and felt for the pouch of money.
no sign of it.
He thought as he sadly withdrew his hand. Reluctantly, he got back into his bed and fell asleep. They went on with their journey the next day. As evening fell, they found a boarding house and decided to rest there for the night. Once again, after the minister had fallen asleep, the man went through all his belongings to find the money. Once again, he was disappointed. There was no sign of the gold. The man fell asleep finally, angry and upset. He could not contain his curiosity. So the next day he asked the minister,
I am sure you must be carrying some money for the journey. But where do you keep it at night?
The minister smiled and said,
My friend, you are looking in all the wrong places. I had kept it under your pillow at night. I knew you would not look there.
The man realized that the minister had outwitted him. Moral: smart thinking can often turn tricky situations in your favor.